That's a sample of what happened in Game 3. Tonight, ABC Sports presents Game 4 of the 1986 National League Championship Series. The New York Mets leading 2-1 over.
No highlight package can do justice. This just one priceless memory. After home runs by Boston's Gedman and California's Boone had left the score 2-1 Bo Sox, Angel Bobby Grich hit that sixth-inning fly ball that Boston center fielder Dave Henderson, in the game for Tony Armas, boosted over the wall for a 2-run homer and a 3-2 California lead. The Angels went to the top of the ninth up 5-2. 3 outs from celebrating Gene Mauch's first World Series visit in a quarter century of managing. But with 1 out, Don Baylor hit that 2-run homer that brought the Red Sox to within 5-4. Then with 2 out and again a man on base, ironically it was Dave Henderson facing Donnie Moore on in relief of California starter Mike Witt. And Henderson's home run put the Red Sox ahead in the game, redeeming the young man whose year had begun in Seattle for his earlier misplay of Grich's fly ball. In the bottom of the ninth, it was the Angels who came back. Rob Wilfong singled to right field, scored Rupert Jones running for Bob Boone from second base as Jones's great slide eluded Gedman's tag at the plate. The battle raged in extra innings. Great defensive plays on both sides. Again, it was Henderson whose sacrifice fly with the bases loaded gave the Red Sox the lead in the top of the 11th. And the final irony in the bottom of the 11th, Calvin Schiraldi, on the day following the worst night of his life, got Brian Downing, of all Angels, for the last out in the Red Sox victory that narrowed the series lead to 3-2 and sent it back to Fenway Park.
For the road leading to...
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, to honor America, the Astros and Mets ask that you join Broadway actress Liz Calloway, now appearing in the show Brownstone, and the singing of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, sir, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Liz Calloway, young lady enjoying success at the moment on Broadway. And I think we're a little upcut. The PA announcer's name, which you did not hear, is Jack Franchetti. Since we introduced J. Fred Duckett down in Houston, I thought Jack ought to be known around the country, and we're about ready to go with game number 4 of the National League Championship Series, and we'll introduce the starting lineups in a moment. He works tonight against a big left-hander named Sid Fernandez. Had a fine season, but different kind of a pitcher than some of you may have seen in recent times, unless you've been to a Mets game. But he's working here to the Houston Astros lineup consisting of Bill Doran, leading off, second baseman, 3 for 12 in the series. Batting second is Billy Hatcher, playing center field, 3 for 11 in the series. Phil Garner at third base tonight, hitting third. Phil 1 for 3 in the one game he's played with an RBI. Glenn Davis, the first baseman, is hitting in the number 4 spot, 3 for 11 with a home run that won the first game. Kevin Bass, right field, batting number 9, 4 out of 10 in the series with a pair of doubles. Jose Cruz is in left field. Jose 3 for 11, batting number 6. Alan Ashby is the catcher. Ashby hitting 7th, 1 for 9. At shortstop with a left-hander on the mound tonight, it is Dickie Thon, 2 for 5. And the pitcher, Mike Scott, batting number 9. Now, let's get a comment from the pitching coach of the New York Mets, the former great right-hander of the New York Yankees, Mel Stottlemyre, on Sid Fernandez and his style, as he talked earlier with Tim McCarver.
Well, Sid has a very unusual pitch and delivery. He seems to throw right out of his body, and he is a pretty good-sized individual. And we have worked with his mechanics some to try to keep his arm up as much as possible when he tries to get the ball down in the strike.
The right-handers. You'd pick that up as you watch Sid work tonight.
And his dad has traveled from Hawaii to watch his son on his 24th birthday pitch in the National League Championship Series. What a nice birthday that is. All right, here we go with Bill Doran stepping to the plate. In the first 2 games, Hatcher led off for Houston, and Doran hit in the number 2 spot. But it was yesterday that Doran moved up, and it was yesterday, hitting left-handed, that he nailed a home run out of here at about 390 feet. The humidity is about 83% as we start this game, which may very well mean less carry on the ball unless it is really nailed. There are some people on these 2 teams that can knock it out of town. I don't care what the weather conditions. And Fernandez starts out with ball 1. Nails it hard. Knocked down by Ray Knight. Throws him out. So, the gentleman farmer from Albany, Georgia, gets a taste of the action.
Ray Knight playing shallow because of a bunt by Doran, and because he's playing shallow, he makes the play before the hop develops. If he's playing back, that last hop might eat him up.
Billy Hatcher, 3 of 11, tries to bunt the ball and fouls it back into the screen. Looks like Hal Lanier has come out of here with an idea tonight, because you sense that Knight was anticipating Doran might put it down. Well, Hatcher declared himself early on, didn't he?
Yeah, if you're going to bunt against Fernandez, and it is a good idea, you bunt to the first base side, because when he follows through with his windup, he falls that way.
Swing and a foul, back out of play. Sid at 24 is just in the process of trying to learn to control a changeup. He's never had one before, but he's been so strong in A, Double A, and Triple A, he was able to get away with what he had. That's hit sharply toward the hole. Santana one-hands it. Makes it look easy. Now it's Phil Garner, who plays third base for Houston when left-handers are pitching against them.
That was really a fine play by Santana. Sometimes a shortstop in going to his right, depending on the speed of the runner, has no chance to stop, plant, and throw. You have to throw on the run. And Santana did it then.
I thought it was interesting. He has the quickness and the confidence of it that he literally went in behind it instead of backhanding the ball, took it with an open glove, and was in throwing position as he came up.
See Ozzie Smith do that, and Santana, a guy who played with Ozzie Smith with the Cardinals a couple of years back.
Glenn Davis in the on-deck circle for Houston if Garner can get something going. The first 2 men out at at third and out on a throw by the shortstop. And Garner fouls it back. Bill Garner, of course, had many good years with the Pittsburgh Pirates before moving over to the Houston Astros.
Matter of fact, he starred in that 1979 series, batting .500 against the Baltimore Orioles.
3-1 count to Garner. Swing and a miss. Strikes him out. It was a 3-2 count to him, and it struck him out. So Fernandez impressive in the opening inning as he turns Houston away in order. By Wally Backman and Keith Hernandez hitting number 3, playing first base. Gary Carter batting 4, hitting in that familiar number 4 position because of his power. 105 runs batted in and 24 home runs. Darryl Strawberry, one of the stars of yesterday, followed by Mookie Wilson, Ray Knight, Rafael Santana, and Sid Fernandez. Now, Dykstra and Backman have scored 5 of the 11 runs scored in this series by the New York Mets. So you go back to the original premise that was stated when we started this playoff series, that in order for the Mets to have success, numbers 1 and 2 in the batting order had to get on base. The defensive alignment for Houston: Cruz, Hatcher, Bass, Davis, Doran, Thon, Garner, Ashby, and Michael Scott. Mike Scott, a former Met, traded to Houston 1982 for outfielder Danny Heap. He was drafted by the Mets out of his junior year at Pepperdine University, which is located up on the bluffs above Malibu. Lenny Dykstra, of course, would figure to bring the crowd to its feet for a standing ovation because of that dramatic home run yesterday that won the ball game. And Scott's first pitch is hit on the ground to the shortstop, Dickie Thon, who himself is a dramatic story in that he was hit over the left eye by Mike Torres, and he fought for over a year to get himself back in good condition, and he's back playing shortstop for Houston. Mike Scott has been stingy in the early going. Basically, I think it's fair to say that he's been a stingy pitcher all year.
Led the league in ERA, 18-10 record. And the Mets have not had success against the Astros in the first 3 innings of any game. They've only had 2 base runners in the first 3 innings of every game so far.
Wally Backman, 3 for 10 in the series. Incidentally, Backman was one of the 14 strikeouts. He struck out 1 time. The only man that Mike Scott didn't strike out in that opening game was Lenny Dykstra. And in game 1, only 3 Mets made it as far as second base. And if you remember, Strawberry got around to third in the 9th inning. The only man to get that far. Well, you can see that finger that he holds out of his glove. He does not have any tape on it tonight, so I guess he didn't bring the sandpaper.
Those have been the accusations.
Ball is hit in the air to left field for Jose Cruz. The wind sort of moved it over, it seemed, that with the slice, and the wind would be drifting gently that way if there's enough to matter. And Cruz makes the catch on the line.
Number 17, Keith Hernandez.
Keith Hernandez, who is 5 of 11 with a triple and 2 runs batted in. Hernandez, however, was a 3-time victim of Scott's strikeout pitch in the opening game.
He did have 1 hit, but he struck out 3 times. Highly unusual for a contact hitter like Keith Hernandez.
Plate umpire Dutch Rennert looking up into the stands. I don't know if it's into the press box or what, but there was something up there bothering somebody, and now they have taken care of it. Dutch back at the plate calling the balls and strikes. He had 2 games in which Scott pitched this year, and Scott lost them both. Now, I'm not suggesting anything. It's just a simple coincidence. Dutch Rennert, one of the veteran arbiters in the National League.
And very vocal.
Yeah. He will let you know when a call strike is made. There you go.
On cue,
right,
Dutch. All right.
Two down, Hernandez at the plate. Carter waiting on deck. To the second baseman, Doran. And so Mike Scott gets the Mets in order in the bottom of the first inning, and very quickly on this mild night in New York, we complete the first inning of play with no score. See at 3 Eastern Time. Tomorrow night, we'll have ABC's NFL Monday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Cincinnati Bengals beginning at 9 Eastern Time. Steelers and Bengals, one of the legendary series in professional football. Glenn Davis, Kevin Bass, and Jose Cruz now. Davis was controlled pretty well yesterday, but he's gone to a little lighter bat to maintain the bat speed. And Fernandez drills him with a fastball strike. Sid has added a little weight, at least it appears so. That has manager David Johnson growling a tad. And he's also shown a capacity for tiring in middle innings, 5th and 6th. Changes speed and drops a curve in on Glenn Davis for strike 2. So, advantage Fernandez, says David Johnson.
Davey feels that tiring and the extra weight gain go hand in hand, or waste and waste.
Loop down the line, and Ray Knight pursues, but Ray can't get it, and it bounces foul.
Glenn Davis tremendously strong. One of only 2 players in Houston Astro history to have over 30 home runs. The other, Jimmy Wynn, the toy cannon.
2-strike pitch is hit to right center, going to drop in there. A little looping liner that falls in front of Strawberry, and Glenn Davis is aboard. So there's your first hit of the ball game, and it brings up Kevin Bass. Kevin Bass is 4 for 10 in the series. He has a pair of doubles, and the right-handed side is his power side.
Matter of fact, he is the only Astro to have homered off of Sid Fernandez this year. He did it here at Shea Stadium back on July 6th.
High pop-up on the left side, but I believe that's going to go to the crowd. And it will. Fernandez was also a 200 strikeout man in 1986, the first since Jerry Koosman. Jerry Koosman was involved in the ceremonial first pitch tonight, along with Tug McGraw. And, of course, they were both prominent members of that 1969 You Gotta Believe team.
First left-hander, of course, Jerry Koosman back in 1976 won 21 games, and Bobby Ojeda, winner of 18, the most wins by a left-hander since Koosman.
Outside corner.
Tug McGraw got a lot of mileage out of that, you got to believe, didn't he?
Was that 73? He came
1973, yeah.
That's a high fastball, and Sid Fernandez can really burn it, and I'm not sure that one was in the strike zone, but Kevin Bass just couldn't leave it alone.
Oh, this is the pitch you must leave alone if you're going to hit Sid Fernandez. Now, we're told that's an 88-mile-an-hour fastball. Not fast as far as most pitchers are concerned, you're real power pitchers, but it's the way he gets rid of the ball that's so important.
Jose Cruz swings and misses, and a snap throw to first. That's pretty close. First base.
Was close. Glenn Davis off a little far, so Hernandez making the late tag, but a good throw by Carter.
1-strike pitch to Cruz. When you see Jose swing that way, you don't really get the impression that he whips the bat. He's just long, sweeping stroke.
One of the few left-handed hitters that's a high ball hitter.
Swings and strikes out. Fernandez now has 3 strikeouts, getting Garner, Bass, and now Cruz. 2 down for Alan Ashby, who's a switch hitter and goes tonight against the lefty from the right side. In his last 2 games in 8 at-bats, Ashby has not moved the ball out of the infield. Davis edges off first. Hernandez moves with him, and Fernandez is high and inside to Ashby. Boy, he looked stunned yesterday when Dykstra hit that home run, didn't he? Awful.
Certainly as stunned as Dave Smith. Dave Smith just simply walked off the field.
2 balls and no strikes.
But the emotion did show in Alan Ashby's face as much as anybody. Well, you do that as a catcher. I mean, you feel responsible for calling a pitch. Obviously, it was the best pitch that Dave Smith had, his fork ball. He got beat with his best, and Astros trying to bounce back tonight.
That's a high pop. May have a play on this one. Santana, the shortstop, coming to the wall on it. He called off Ray Knight and then had to compete apparently with some fans to get it and couldn't come out of there with it.
Well, a shortstop on the left side or a second baseman on the right side has the best angle. That's why they usually call off the third baseman or the first baseman.
But this is the first instance where we have seen the additional seats come into play.
That's exactly right. But Santana did call for that ball and was not in a position to make the catch. I think Knight makes the catch if he's allowed to go closer.
I think so. 3 balls and 1 strike now to Alan Ashby with Glenn Davis on first base and 2 down. He struck out Bass and Cruz swinging. Dickie Thon is waiting on deck. That's foul.
Tell you one thing, what you would really hate is for those added seats to allow a hitter like Alan Ashby new life and then have him jack one out of the park the next pitch, and that be the difference of the game. That's a little tough to swallow if you lose like that.
Little things like that, though, have had large meaning in times past.
Yes, sir.
(3-2) to Ashby. Davis goes. Pitch is swung on. Hit to left. Left fielder going back. Wilson hustling. It's gone. Home run, Ashby. How do you do?
Well, the New York Mets adding those extra seats, obviously, for extra revenue. And just think about it, whether it's extra revenue or not. If this home run is a determining factor in this ball game. One of the very strange things about this game and the new ground rules here at Shea.
Davey has a bit of a stricken look as a result of it, too.
Yeah, because he's used to seeing those foul balls caught down there. Nobody's going to catch this one. Home run, Ashby.
And Dickie Thon swings and misses for strike 1. 2-0. Astros out to the lead. They led 4-0 yesterday, and then went for the came into the tie in the bottom of the 6th when Strawberry hit the 3-runner. 2-strike count now on the Houston shortstop. High in the air to center field for Dykstra. Side retired, but Glenn Davis leadoff single with 2 down. Alan Ashby getting a second life. Hits it out of the ballpark and left, and the Houston Astros lead 2-0 in the middle of the 2nd. By Mike Scott leads off, followed by Darryl Strawberry and Mookie Wilson. Middle of the order for the Mets. Houston leading 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the 2nd inning. Jim Carter coming in from California to see Gary play. Gary, born in Culver City, grew up in the Fullerton area of Southern California. Mike Scott, 2 balls and no strikes.
I'll tell you, that's very interesting to see Carter take those 2 pitches. I was talking to Mike Schmidt, who had a conversation with Carter last night, and he said there's one sure way of beating that split finger and keep from hitting it out of the strike zone. He said take more often.
Swings through that one and misses for a count of 2-1. Will end as 14 strikeouts in game 1. 9 of them came for Mike Scott on counts of 1-2 or 0-2. So he wasn't behind very much. High pop-up. The shortstop, Thon, calls for it and accepts it behind second base for the first out. Let's go back to the foul ball that we thought might well have been caught by Ray Knight. It's right down the line. Now, right here, Santana is going to call him off. And the ball keeps on drifting, and now Santana is not bold. He does not go to the railing first and force himself in amongst the paying customers and wrestle for that ball.
And you also picked up, Keith, on the first fly ball hit to Jose Cruz in left field, how the wind was carrying the ball toward the left field line. That ball should have been caught, however.
Darryl Strawberry has a strike. Low, you heard Dutch say. Strawberry was claimed by Scott twice on strikes in the opening game. One and two. Incidentally, Dutch Rennert's just started to play the game of golf, so if you see him on the course, stay loose.
Well, at least you can hear when he says 4.
Yeah, I think so. Struck him out. That is the first strikeout of the ball game for Mike Scott. That fastball, 9-0. Maybe the Jugs gun here is a little faster than the one they had down in Houston, huh?
Well, the ball really gets on top of you in a hurry. He has not really featured that split-fingered fastball yet. Swinging strikeout by Strawberry. 11 of the 14 Ks on Wednesday were also swinging strikeouts.
You got to look at it there. And very quickly, Mookie Wilson has a 2-strike count. And the airplanes have been flying now right over Shea for the better part of 5 hours. To the point where you've had dust devils dancing around the infield. I mean, they really rattle the china sometimes when they come through here.
They certainly do.
Inside. Another one. Split finger. Doesn't throw it as often as you think he might. It's an out pitch. The shortstop, Thon, has a chance. Oh, bad bounce. Good play, Thon. Talk about quick hands. Wow. That ball turned into a bullet when it hit the crease out there between the grass and the dirt. And it was an exceptional play by Dickie Thon to get the ball. So Mike Scott's retired the first 6 Mets he has faced. There is no score at Shea. Excuse me, there's 2-0 for Houston after 2. No scoring again by the Mets after 2. As a matter of fact, they have not scored a run in any game before the 4th inning of play. They got 2, if you remember, back in the 4th inning of the 2nd game they won. Now, we have Mike Scott, who in the ball game in the Astrodome, if you remember, had 2 great opportunities to help himself with the bat. He came up twice with the bases loaded and 1 out. And each instance he was unable to help himself. And he's leading off this inning and very quickly falls behind 2 strikes.
He struck out once against Dwight Gooden, and the next time up with the bases loaded and 1 out, he hit into a double play. But he's only needed 1 run with the way he's been pitching so far. And he's got 2 tonight.
Yeah, that might seem like a bonus.
Yeah, twice as many.
Mike was not drafted out of high school. Big fellow, 6'3", about 220. And Sid Fernandez drifts a curve in, but doesn't get the call. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Pepperdine was the only school that offered him any kind of a scholarship to play baseball. Of course, Pepperdine does not have a football program, but they do have a fine basketball program, as well as baseball. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Mike Scott. He just gave him some heat and struck him out. That's 4 strikeouts for Fernandez now, and we go back to the top of the order. Second time around now for Bill Doran and Billy Hatcher, with Phil Garner in case somebody gets aboard. Doran hit it solid first time up, but right at Ray Knight. Pitch is high.
He hit that one the first time up like he plays, solidly. You keep looking for Bill Doran to make a mistake, and he rarely does. He is as solid a ball player as there is in the National League.
Snaps that thing in there, doesn't he, with some authority. He looks fastball when he's at the plate. And probably in the years to come will hit it more and more. That was a tough pitch there.
Well, all young hitters look fastball and have to be able to handle the fastball, and their ability to hit the fastball is what gets them to the major leagues. The inability to hit the curveball is what sends them back.
Sharply struck, but on the ground right at Wally Backman. Two down for Billy Hatcher.
Coming to the plate, center fielder Billy Hatcher.
That was some kind of ball game today in California, wasn't it?
Oh, my goodness.
Just one great defensive play after another, and then one mistake after another. In case you missed it, the Red Sox won it in extra innings, 7-6, and they travel tomorrow, headed back to Fenway for game number 6. We play tomorrow afternoon at 3 Eastern time here on ABC at Shea Stadium, and Hatcher has hit that ball high to right center field where Dykstra runs it down and makes the catch, and so Fernandez retires Houston in order in the top of the 3rd inning. And after 2.5 innings of play, it is 2-0, Houston leading.
You have to draw the line someplace, then cross over it. That's how new.
Ray Knight, Rafael. Ray Knight with a bit of an uncertain future. They'll talk contract when play is done. See what happens.
Of course, off a very sound year, a year in which he batted .298, so that should certainly help things.
Sharply, third baseman Bill Garner. One down.
Now batting for the Mets, the shortstop, number 3, Rafael Santana.
Remember, Santana stung the ball. He hit it hard twice against Scott. Took a marvelous play by Doran, his first time at bat, to take the base hit away from him.
And then the 3rd time up, Davy Johnson pinch hit for him. Danny Heath pinch hit.
And Mike starts him high. 2 balls and no strikes. I note that Santana is as far back as the law will allow. He wants to look at it as long as possible, I guess. Third baseman Garner again. Throws across, 2 down. Now Fernandez. Well, now pitcher walks up. Folks want to think, well, that's an out. I'll go get something fresh. Don't do it. This guy had 2 game-winning base hits this season and was 11 for 68. Now, the big numbers and the average, forget it. If he gets on it, I never will forget Steve Carlton when I suggested he wasn't much of a threat, and he knocked it all the way downtown St. Louis for 3 runs. And Fernandez hits it on the ground for the first baseman Davis. Bobbles the ball, and Scott, the pitcher, is over to get it. And Glenn had to double clutch that one to get it over to the pitcher covering at first base. But Mike Scott retires the first 9 Mets he faces. And after 3 innings of play, it is 2-0. The Houston Astros have the lead. You see Davis here now. Bobble it for a moment.
Today's small cars are tougher than ever on oil. Their high-compression engines not only rev high, they can run hotter than regular small car engines. Their searing heat can begin to break down an oil immediately. That's why there's Castrol, the only leading motor oil that in every grade provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown. So use Castrol before your engine does something to get you heated up. Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars.
We got fans. Because we give 110%. Give 110% expected. From everyone, everything. Speedstick antiperspirant gives 110%. Why? It's the most powerful protection you can get. Nothing fights wetness and odor better. Glides on dry, lasts all day. That's 110% protection.
Speedstick antiperspirant, the wide stick.
That's your edge.
By Menon.
If only things lasted longer. If only their warranties lasted longer. If only you had bought them with the American Express card. Because from now until December 31st, we will extend the free repair period of the manufacturer's warranty. In fact, we'll...
And Sid Fernandez will be pitching to Phil Garner, Glenn Davis, and Kevin Bass. In the top of the 4th inning, the Astros leading the Mets 2-0. That pitch was high. Right side, second baseman, Backman. Short right field for the catch. And now Davis. Davis had singled to lead off the 2nd inning and was aboard when Ashby hit the home run. So he scored one of the 2 Astros counters and steps in against Sid Fernandez. 31 home runs for him this season. 17 in the dome. Well outside.
That's the amazing thing. There are a lot of parks in the National League where the ball carries much better than in the dome. But in the same amount of games, he had 3 more homers in a ballpark that certainly is not conducive to the long ball.
Well, it had to look like a pumpkin coming up there, and Glenn just couldn't contain himself. He went after it and was well out in front.
A lot of those pumpkins are started by seeds.
Yes, that's right.
You swing at it and it turns into one.
Comes right back with the fastball and misses with it. So it's 2 balls and a strike. Foul.
The thing about Fernandez, there's a saying in baseball about pitchers of his ilk, and it's that his foot hits the ground before his arm comes around. what would normally be a strain on the shoulder of a pitcher, but it's his style of pitching, that high kick. And then the foot hits the ground and the body follows.
Breaking pitch is inside, and now Gary Carter wants to go talk. I think he's seeing something developing here with Sid that he wants to get straightened out if he possibly can.
Here's what we're saying. Now watch the right foot hit the ground and yet the arm still be back. See, there's the foot and now the arm's still back. He is a power pitcher. That's a very confusing move or way of delivering the ball for any hitter, because when he starts with the foot hits the ground, the body starts for the hitter, and the ball's not there.
And Phil Garner, Glenn Davis goes on down. Garner having popped out to Backman. Davis single, and now he is walked. And Kevin Bass comes to the plate. Bass struck out swinging his first time. NFL scores: Giants winning big. Dallas won big over Washington. St. Louis beating Tampa Bay. And Fernandez now pitching to Bass, and Bass pops it up. Carter comes back. Gary has a look at it, but it's back in the crowd. Glenn Davis on first base is not the swiftest of the swift on the Houston roster, but ain't the slowest either. But the point to be taken here, I think, is what with the motion of Fernandez, the fact that Houston has stolen 5 bases.
Yeah, he is very easy to steal off of. High kick. He does not have a good move to first base. Very deliberate.
This is popped up to the infield, and Wally Backman's going to have his second put out of the inning. That's 2 down, and Davis stays at first base.
And at the plate, the left fielder, Jose.
And that brings up Jose Cruz, who struck out swinging his first time up. We're in the top of the 4th inning with the Astros leading 2-0. Cruz hits a high fly ball out into right center area for Darryl Strawberry, loping along, and the side's retired. So Davis is stranded at first. That'll be in game number 5 right now. Game 4, second time around for the Mets. Dykstra, Backman, Hernandez. Scott got the first 9 in order. Mets bats remain quiet. They have been quiet in this entire series through 3 innings, but in the first 2 games they started to make some noise in the 4th inning, and that's where we are, bottom of the 4th.
I think the interesting thing about Mike Scott in this ball game, he has not thrown a lot of split finger fastballs, which may account for his only strikeout that coming in the 2nd inning. There was one there.
And he's got a 2-strike count on Len Dykstra.
There are very few pitchers who can continually go to the mound game in and game out and do the same thing with the lineup that they've done with them the last time out. And maybe the Mets thinking that the split finger fastball is coming and trying to adjust to the fastball is the reason that Scott's retired 9 in a row.
That's just low. There's been 1 ball hit to the outfield so far. All zeros in the line score for the Mets so far. High pop-up for Bill Doran at second base. And Dykstra's out. Now Wally Backman. He looped one in the air down the left field line, and Jose Cruz, crossing the line, made the catch.
really tell much from that angle. As you see the hand in the glove, there we go. Right there. Does not appear that Mike Scott is scuffing the ball. That ball really went down.
What are they going to call? Interference?
They are calling it safe because Mike Scott interfered with Wally Backman. But was it the fact that Scott was going after the ball in the process? A defensive player, usually given the leeway in any situation when they're trying to field the ball. However, in this particular case, he allows him to make the play, but in the process, he trips Backman. Now, really, when you think about it, that's the best way to allow your first baseman to make the play, is to trip the guy who's running. But obviously, that was unintentional and a controversial play. On the other hand, Wally Backman's got to be, I mean, he's just running down the baseline, not really trying to avoid the tag or anything, and Scott comes and knocks him down. So you can really understand both sides of the argument. Got to go as an infield base hit for Backman.
Well, Lanier is not about to surrender yet.
Al's probably saying yesterday on the bunt play, said he ran out of the baselines, and now you're saying my pitcher knocked him down, and he's right. But I'll tell you, I understand what Lanier's arguing, and if Joe West had called Backman out, I would have understood why Davy Johnson would have been out there. Really, you can see both sides. No intent on Scott's part to trip Wally Backman, of course. David Johnson glad they got the call, and they appear to have.
Well, obviously, Lanier unhappy, but he has lost the argument, and you knew that he would, because the runner obviously must be given access. Now, Backman went out of the base path there trying to avoid the collision, but I'm not sure Wally could have avoided under any circumstances.
He tried, yeah, the key is I think he tried to avoid the collision, but didn't try to avoid the tag. That may enter Joe West's thinking.
Could be. So Backman is on first base. And we've had our first brisk conversation of the night. And here's Keith Hernandez now with one out.
I'll tell you, it's going to be ruled an error on Mike Scott for obstruction. So it is not a base hit, but Mike Scott for obstruction, interfering with the runner, trying to impede his progress to the base. Probably the only time you can commit an error and not have the ball. Certainly one of the few times in baseball.
First pitch to Hernandez for ball one. Of course, the only thing that would enter into the earned run average situation. So here, nobody is concerned about that. It's the presence of the man on the bag that bothers Mike Scott right now with Hernandez at the plate, and that is foul to the left side. Here's the play going back to yesterday when Lanier argues that he goes out of the baseline here, trying to avoid a tag.
Now it was Dutch Rennert's theory and thinking that Glenn Davis didn't have a play on him yesterday anyway.
He had run past him already.
Right. He had gone past him, thereby not avoiding the tag, and that's what Dutch told us after the game was his ruling on the play. And clearly there it showed that Davis had no chance to touch Backman in yesterday's ball game.
So it goes down as an error on the pitcher, Scott, simply for getting in the way. Simply put. Keith Hernandez is the hitter for New York with a count of 1-1. Bottom of the fourth inning. The Astros are leading in the ball game, having scored twice in the second inning on Alan Ashker's home run. And they lead 2-0. Backman goes. Hernandez swings and misses. The throw, not in time. Backman steals second base, and it's 1-2 on Hernandez.
One of the problems, as you see Wally Backman with a good jump, one of the problems with that split finger, it's like a knuckleball. Alan Ashby could not get it out of the glove, and you get that dead spin in the web of the catcher's mitt, and it keeps rolling around and rolling around. You really don't have firm control of it, and that's why Ashby didn't have a quick release on that throw.
So with Backman on the far turn now in scoring position, Hernandez 1-2 count, and the Mets have a threat going in the bottom of the fourth. Pitch is up high. 2-2.
Same pitch. He's saying same pitch, same pitch. But twice Hernandez was struck out on high inside fastballs the other day. And if you think it's not healthy to talk to yourself as a hitter, you're wrong. You got to talk to yourself. Just don't answer back.
Down the line, foul. It was about 6 feet foul. Ball struck sharply down toward the left field corner. Well, I've known some hitters that answered back.
Carried on a conversation. I've known a lot of pitchers that answered back. One of them, Lou Burdett. That's not Lou right there. Lou, they call Lou Birdcage. Look, act like he had a bird on his shoulder all the time. Talking to himself, talking to his shoulder.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Now back one more time.
One of the amazing things about Mike Scott in the second half, his last 6 ball games, he has struck out, the last 6 games that he started, he has struck out 68 and walked 5. Talk about a ratio.
Ooh, that's strong. Little bleeder up the middle. Don, the shortstop. Backman had to go back to the bag at second. Don throws out Hernandez. 2 down. And here's Gary Carter.
I would imagine
up to the shortstop.
I would imagine Wally Backman would be glad when this half inning's over. He's had a pitcher knock him down. Now he's got a hitter driving a ball at him. He's got to wait to get back to second. And now somebody almost hits him in the head with the throw. I mean, he's saying, wait a minute, get me home, but get me out of this half inning. What's going on?
Missiles flying around my head.
Bodies hitting me and everything.
Gary Carter now. Inside and tight to Carter for ball 1. Backman aboard at second base. It was an error on the pitcher, not a base hit. Houston 2-2-1. The Mets 3 zeros in your line score. Foul. It was Gary Carter, remember, that made most of the noise in the allegations that Scott was scuffing the ball.
From the first inning on.
Yep.
We brought up in our broadcast the other night, you don't know whether that was bad for the psychology, group psychology of the Mets, or good. Obviously, it hasn't worked yet.
2 balls and 1 strike. It was the Cubs, Jim Fry in particular, that claimed they found sandpaper on a Band-Aid near the thumb on the left hand, claimed that Mike was using it when he rubbed down a new ball.
Yeah, I think Leon Durham found a couple of pieces of sandpaper behind the mound at Wrigley Field in Chicago.
That's a bouncing ball. That is foul and picked up by Bud Harrelson, the third base coach. Bill Robinson is the first base coach. I think if I were a pitcher, though, with this kind of a thing going, I would very carefully get me a little pair of scissors and some sandpaper, and I'd cut up little pieces, and I just might go out there and drop them around every once in a while. Let's just blend the idea.
Just like bird seed, huh?
Need all the help you can get these days.
Sure, that's right. Get him to thinking.
2-2 pitch to Carter. He went through there. Strikes out. So right now, Mike Scott's got Gary Carter buffaloed. There's no question about it. He handled him in the game one, and he's handled him so far tonight. And so the Mets strand Backman at first base, their first base runner of the night. And after 4 complete innings of play, it's 2-0 Astros. National Conference West, overtime, Minnesota beat the 49ers. Detroit over Green Bay, and the Bears beat Houston. NFL scores of this afternoon. Now Alan Ashby, the man who has done the damage. As far as the Mets are concerned, Alan had a 2-run home run back in the 2nd inning, his first at bat, followed by Dickie Thon and then Mike Scott. Thank you, Duck.
At least Dutch is yelling off to the side, not into the ear of the catcher.
Breaking pitch, swing and a miss by Ashby. Joe West, we told you, at first base. Fred Brocklander at second. Doug Harvey over to third. Down the left field line, Lee Wire. And the right field line, Frank Pulley. Two-strike count on Ashby. Punch foul.
Here it is, the 5th inning, and the only reason that the Astros have scored, that foul ball that went into the stands that were put up especially for the playoffs, and obviously you can't blame anybody for that. They were put up to give more people a chance to see the ball game, but one of the quirks of this game so far, and the difference in this ball game.
That's foul down the left side. Kind of interesting too here that well, it's that these two pitchers who are facing each other tonight were both moved to different locations because the teams that had them at the time of the move had just simply run out of patience with it. Scott let go by the Mets, and Fernandez let go by the Dodger organizations, and for the same reason. They just weren't developing as fast as they thought they might have. And so they changed uniforms, and they walked right into great success.
Sid Fernandez, of course, pitched at San Antonio. I say, of course, if you're not familiar with Sid. Pitched at San Antonio before the trade was made. He came over with Ross Jones and Carlos Diaz, a left-handed pitcher, and Bob Baylor, a utility infielder, went over to the Dodgers. Since then, Ross Jones has been playing in the minor leagues. Bob Baylor has been released, and the Mets have a whale of a young pitcher on their hands, and glad of it.
Sid born in Kailua in Hawaii. Too big to do much at surfing, so he turned to baseball. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Still an avid surfer, though. His mom, to give the players the flavor of Hawaii, often sends macadamia nuts to the Met players.
Ashby hits it in the air, up the alley, high, hanging now, and playable for Dykstra, but almost against the wall in deep left center field. Well, the Raiders beat Seattle today. That's a big game in the AFC West, and Denver jumped on San Diego while Cleveland knocked down Kansas City to finish off the NFL scores of the day. And we come back to baseball now with Dickie Thon, the Houston shortstop up there. There is still some effect of being hit and having partial vision in that left eye by Thon, and he just nailed that one, and it's gone. Home run. Wilson went as high as he could, and it's just over his glove, and Dickie Thon just nailed it. You could hear the crack of the bat, and it was a question of whether or not Wilson would be able to climb high enough to get a piece of it, and he could not, and it is 3-0 Houston. But I would like to say, Tim, that he stands a little more open. He opened up his stance because of the vision problems, and he's obviously swinging pretty well.
Well, he opened up on that fastball inside to Keith Hernandez. And you are so right. For to hitters, there is nothing sweeter than the sound of that little tick hitting the ball at bat ash to agate, as Joe Schultz, old minor league manager, used to say. That's what Thon just did, ash to agate.
And Mike Scott, the pitcher, is up there. So it's been the home run ball that's done the damage against Sid Fernandez. And it's come in the bottom third of the order. The number 7 man and the number 8 man, and that's fouled away. Well, as the old saying goes, if you throw the ball up over the plate, it doesn't make any difference what position you're hitting in. The Major League Baseball players will knock it out of the park.
Anybody who swings is dangerous.
Well, Mike Scott made contact with one here. He's kicked it away and fouled it back a couple of times, but so far in this series, we have not had a single pitcher come up with a base hit. Slow curve comes drifting in, and Mike walks away. That's strikeout number 5 for Fernandez. That was a 65-mile-an-hour curveball. Reed Chubb's name as it came up to the plate.
Keith, you're talking about the pitchers not getting a hit. I guess all of the people who are pro designated hitter are out there saying, well, if they had a designated hitter in this series, Mike Scott wouldn't have been hitting the other night in Houston. He wouldn't have stranded 7 base runners.
Top of the order, Bill Doran. I don't know. I still have mixed feelings about it.
Do you really?
Yep.
I don't. I am
Again, it
opposed to the designated hitter.
1 ball and 1 strike.
I think it changes the nature of the game. And if you change the nature of the game, I'm not too sure that I can explain it other than a feel that I have for it. And I guess I'm a purist from that standpoint.
Well, when you're playing the game, you should play all the games.
Well, yeah, you should play offensively and defensively.
Yep.
The nature of the game meant to be played.
2 balls and 2 strikes now on Bill Doran, who has hitless in 2 trips tonight.
Hey, I had a short tenure, about a year in the American League, though, and as I got older, it certainly, from a player's standpoint, became more appealing to me. Yeah. And I'm sure it's appealing to a lot of the older players because they can still help a ball club.
Doran reaches out and swings and just barely tips foul one of those 65-mile-an-hour curveballs. Foul back again. Well, you can take the basic character of a game, I think, as you put it, and get too involved in specialization, and you will erode that basic game. No question about it. I don't disagree with that at all.
Well, there are obviously a lot more run-scoring opportunities when you have the DH. They score about, I guess, a run more a game in the American League and the National League.
2-2 to Bill Doran. He hits it high in the air, and Santana turns his back on it and takes off, but Mookie Wilson calls him off of it, and Mookie makes the catch for the 3rd out. But the Astros get 1 more on Dickie Thon's home run, and they lead it 3-0.
When we want to work up a sweat, nothing works like this.
First pitch is good for a strike. Mookie Wilson will follow Strawberry and then Ray Knight. Scott retired the first 10, then committed an error when he ran into Wally Backman. And Strawberry hits a high foul back into the crowd on the right side. And it's 2 strikes on Darrell. So the Mets are still hitless. And Danny Darwin is up throwing easily in the Houston bullpen. That's just in case, I would suppose, just because he is scheduled to be a middleman. Right now, Scott pretty much has things his way as he strikes out Darryl Strawberry, and that will tie him with Tom Seaver for the National League Championship Series strikeout total in a series at 17. Tom said it in 1973.
This is after only a game and a half, and if Scott wins this ball game, there's a chance, not a chance, but he will be the pitcher in Game 7 if it goes that long. He could blow that strikeout record right out of tilt.
Dickie Thon throws out Mookie Wilson. 2 down.
I guess the first thought that would come to your mind when you see Darwin warming up was this: since Scott is pitching on only 3 days rest, with Hal Lanier with the 3-run lead, bring in Darwin, but with Scott not giving up any hits yet and him going along, they've got to win this ball game.
He hasn't gone to a 3-ball count yet.
No, I mean, yeah, that's right. So his pitches have been minimum, they've been minimized, and there's just no way that Danny Darwin is doing anything other than throwing out there in the bullpen, I wouldn't think. Now, if they get a 9-run lead or something like that, I think you might see Darwin in there to save the arm of Mike Scott.
That's a foul ball and a broken bat for Ray Knight, so he'll come back and get another piece of lumber. There's Danny. He would be new to the Mets because he came out of the American League.
And obviously very effective the first time around. He was 5-2 with Houston.
But right now, there's nothing but zeros up there, and I don't think you're going to see Scott come out of there until
no, there's fighting and clawing, maybe, but
that's right.
No chance.
Got a base hit. Ray fouls it back again. In the meantime, over on the other side, Roger McDowell is up now and throwing in the bullpen for the New York Mets. And Roger is the obvious man to come in relief of a Sid Fernandez because, one, Fernandez is a guy with that hard-riding fastball, left-hander. McDowell, on the other hand, is a right-hander and a sneaky fast with a very good sinker. That's the first base hit of the ball game. Ray Knight, sharp little left field, and the Mets finally have the first hit.
Oh, this ball, a clean base hit to left field. It was the split finger fastball. And to my knowledge, just off the top of my head, the 5 hits that the Mets got off of Scott in the dome, none of them were a split finger fastball. All were fastballs.
But that one didn't sink. It was up.
Those high sinkers, catchers don't catch those.
Santana is the batter. And Danny Heap has come to the on-deck circle, so Davy Johnson's going to make a pitching change. That's why Roger McDowell is up and throwing in the bullpen. Popped up on the right side. First baseman Glenn Davis. Fair ground. Makes the catch for the 3rd out. So Heap will go back to the dugout, and we'll see about Fernandez. It's 3-0 Houston. Back after this word from your local station. Sid Fernandez stays in the game. And Hatcher hits a high fly ball for Dykstra in left center. And he makes the catch. Hatcher now is 0 for 3 in the ball game. Phil Garner coming up has struck out and popped out to the second baseman. Phil having shaved off that big black mustache he wore for about a dozen years. Even Gene Tennis has shaved his off. He was coaching for the Houston Astros. I didn't recognize Phil when I first bumped into him without the mustache.
Phil, the annual winner of that Yosemite Sam contest. Of course, and Gino, of course, they're from the old Mustang gang, or Mustache gang. Maybe Mustang, too.
Yeah, they were Mustangs. That crowd was. Whoa. They couldn't find a fight on the ball field. They'd go in the clubhouse and do it.
They certainly would. Won 3 straight world championships, the Oakland A's, back in 1972, 73, and 74.
Garner hits it to center. Lenny Dykstra drifts back a couple of steps and makes the catch. 2 out. And now the drama gets a little more pronounced as Glenn Davis steps in. Davis has singled and walked in his 2 previous appearances tonight. And Sid starts him with a breaking pitch that's up high. He's got Davis right where he wants him. You see, he's grown a smaller one back. There's Gino. Good guy.
Most valuable player in the 72 World Series against the Cincinnati Reds.
That was a home run swing by Glenn Davis on a high fastball and didn't get it. But Fernandez has got him right where he wants him. The base is empty and 2 out. You've got to pitch to him. That's the way you want to pitch to him. Foul back.
Glenn Davis is locked in. There's really no other term. Any ball over the fat part of the plate, he is going to have a healthy cut at. He is the only player on either side to have a hit in every game that's been played so far.
Two balls and 2 strikes.
So you get locked in like Glenn Davis is right now, and you can just tell, but with the crispness of his swing, you can't wait to get to the ballpark, regardless of who's throwing. Ball looks like a cantaloupe coming up there.
Full count.
I don't think he's going to get a fastball in this 3-2 count with 2 out, even though nobody's on. But he did.
Yep. And he tore a hole in the ground as he took that swing at it, but he fouled it back. Just missed it. That's that rider, though. That's that rising fastball.
Yeah. It's amazing how many types of pitchers like that both teams have. Jim Deshaies starting tomorrow afternoon. High fastball. Fernandez, high fastball. Gooden, high fastball.
Popped up. Carter comes back and will have a play. So Gary ignoring the spectators as they were leaning over the added seats there, shouting at him and waving their arms, and makes the catch, and the side retired in order. 3-0 Astros.
IBM presents You Make the Call. With a count of 2-2, a batter tips a third strike. The ball then hits off the catcher's glove and mask before he finally catches it. Is the batter out? You make the call.
For just a minute, we'd like to interrupt the
Scott in the opening game of the series and became his 11th strikeout victim. After Mazzilli, we'll go back to the top of the order. McDowell back in the pen, getting ready to come in relief of Fernandez. It is 3-0 Houston, and the Mets batting in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Lee Mazzilli from Brooklyn. And before Sean Dunston signed with the Chicago Cubs, Mazzilli was the highest round draft choice, highest player selected from the New York area.
Scott out to a 2-strike edge on Mazzilli now. Top of the order is on deck. Dykstra followed by Backman. One and two. Ends it in. Is that what you would consider a hard slider?
Or cut fastball.
Cut fastball?
Yeah. I don't think there's really the eye of the slider. People used to talk about how tight the spin was. The eye, Joe Becker, an old pitching coach, used to talk about the eye of the slider.
This is the first time in the ball game now that Scott has gone to a 3-ball count. It's a full count on Mazzilli, 3-2, and we're in the bottom of the 6th inning. That's foul back, a defensive swing. Ball ran in on him.
When pitchers cut that fastball, they put the pressure on the middle finger, and that causes the ball. It doesn't cause it to spin, but it causes it to sail in on a left-handed hitter as a right-handed pitcher. Just sail a little bit.
Struck him out. Well, that's his 4th of the night. 1 out, and that ties him with Dave Steve, who struck out 18 in the championship series of the year ago. But it was a 3-game performance by Dave Steve in which he totaled his 18 strikeouts. And here Scott's done it in, 14 and 3rd inning. Lenny Dykstra takes it inside. Has bounced to the shortstop and popped up to the second baseman. And Aurelio Lopez now has moved into the bullpen and is throwing some.
A lot of guys getting their throwing in tonight.
Fouled at the plate.
I'll tell you the thing, Keith. Mike Scott's pitching against big league hitters. Not only that, the Mets led the National League in batting with a .263 average. They were 3rd in home runs. And they won 108 ball games. So if you think Mike Scott is pitching against a bunch of Humpties, you're dead right. I mean, these are good big league hitters. And sometimes these guys go up there, it's no contest.
One and one count.
Wow.
Well, you know, in 1985, he was 18 and 8.
Uh-huh. After he nursed and rehearsed that split finger fastball. Changed his life around and a lot of hitters' lives around in this league.
That pitch was high, and it's 2-2 now to Dykstra. You look at Dykstra and you see he's going to stand 5'9" or so, and then he crouches in the box. He's not a big target, but he's strong. He's thick. That's foul. Of course, this is the game where people 5'9" can play and be very, very successful. It just depends on what they do.
Well, we talked about it earlier. It's not really the game that too many 5'9" guys can be a designated hitter, though.
That's true.
Most 5'9" guys have to play good defense unless they're pitchers. And that was our point earlier about the nature of the game. When you change that, change a lot.
Well, Scott's got 5 strikeouts in the ball game tonight. And now he owns the championship series strikeout record.
With 19 in less than 2 games.
That one might have been out of strike zone there.
Well, you know, it's my opinion that more than half of the strikeouts that are swinging are balls that are out of the strike zone. But with 2 strikes, that's why it's important to get ahead. With 2 strikes, you have a tendency to go for a ball out of the strike zone because you're trying to be protected. You are a defensive hitter.
I think Wally Backman just took a called strike there that was probably unhittable. Just dove over that inside corner. I don't know how in the world you'd hit that thing. That was high. 2 out. Bottom of the 6th inning. 3-0 Houston. 2-1.
A guy like Scott who does throw the split finger fastball. The ball to be effective is out of the strike zone. And to accentuate that point, 16 of the 19 strikeouts that he has mounted have been swinging strikeouts. Wow. Wow.
Fastball was up. So for the second time in this inning now, he's gone to a 3-2 count. Hadn't done it at all in the ball game up until now in the 6th inning. But he's got 2 out and nobody on. Bouncer to the first baseman Davis. Quinn will do it himself, and the side is retired. So he gets him in order. And after 6, 3-0 Astros.
Announcing the
1 in 69, lost in 73 in the National League Championship Series to the Cincinnati Reds. And one of the highlights involved the Mets third base coach, Bud Harrelson. He got into a dandy fight with Pete Rose on a play at second base, bringing both teams out of the dugout. And as we play this 1986 Championship Series, Bud Harrelson remembers 1973 this way.
I popped off in Cincinnati after Matlack threw a 2-hitter and said that they all look like me hitting. I guess the Cincinnati Reds didn't appreciate that. And Pete was mad when he got here. And I thought he hit me after the play was over. I'd already thrown the ball to first base on a double play. And I had some words with him. He said I didn't know him well enough to call him those names. And he picked me up off the ground, and the fight was over.
But it wouldn't be over. Bud Harrelson. Wow, what, Bud weigh 160 pounds, maybe?
Uh-huh.
Maybe.
And little Pete was not that little.
Roger McDowell is into the ball game now in relief of Sid Fernandez, and Kevin Bass jumps on the first pitch and lifts it out into left field, where Mookie Wilson makes the catch.
There are the numbers on McDowell. He won more games than any reliever in the major leagues this year. Led the National League in innings pitched for a reliever. Set an all-time Met record in appearances. And 22 saves. He had a marvelous year.
Jose Cruz is now the hitter. He jumps on the first pitch and bangs it to the right side. Backman throws him out. So the Astros are making it easy for Roger here in the top of the 7th inning. Alan Ashby is coming. The book on Fernandez, 6 innings, 3 runs, all earned, walked 1, struck out 5.
And coming to the plate, catcher Alan Ashby.
Alan Ashby comes to the plate now. Alan switches to the other side, having hit right-handed in the 2 previous appearances in the game, and his first time up tonight hit a 2-run home run to left field.
I'd like to correct that about the victories. Mark Eichhorn of the Toronto Blue Jays also had 14 wins, so McDowell tied Eichhorn for the major league lead in wins.
A bullet off the bat of Ashby, gloved by Santana. Roger McDowell almost nailed by that one as it went whistling by, and even Santana had trouble knocking it down, but he throws him out, and McDowell gets him in order in the top of the 7th. 3-0 Astros. Him with you know what, and the stretch time in the 7th inning as we look down on the house that Bill helped build. That from a helicopter. It turned out to be a very nice day. With all of the dire forecasts in the offing, one thought it might be freezing cold, and it was cold out here yesterday, but today there's very little wind, and the temperature at game time was 55 degrees. It's a 3-0 lead for the Houston Astros as the Mets come up in the bottom of the 7th inning against Mike Scott. He's allowed 1 hit, a clean single to left by Ray Knight. Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, and Darryl Strawberry. Hernandez hitless in 2 trips tonight. And it's outside. Crowd trying to get into the ball game now. But Scott's kept them quiet so far. Ball 2.
I tell you, for crowd control at a ball game, I know of no better sedating effect that an opposing pitcher will have on that crowd. And this man tonight has certainly had it, as much as he had the animated effect on the Houston crowd in game 1.
2-1. As he took a little something off that pitch, it looked like. It is now 2-2. And the bottom dropped out of it.
And the fact is, he can throw it for strikes. Keith is saying, what's going on?
Two-two. The leadoff man in this inning, Hernandez, and Keith fouls it back.
Noticing some comments from other players about Mike Scott. They said the best way to hit the split finger fastball is to move up in the box, hit it before it breaks, but then you have to cope with that fastball of his. He gets as many strikeouts on that as the other pitch.
Foul ball. Well, you move up in the box and you make that 91-mile-an-hour fastball 93.
That's right. You know, scuffing really a new term in baseball. It used to be the only thing you had to deal with as far as illegalities of pitchers. Slippery elm, moisture. That's what made it go down. But now it's a legal pitch when you can split your fingers and make a ball do what Scott can make the balls do.
Towering pop-up. Bill Doran, the second baseman, and 1 out.
I caught several pitchers that threw spitters. I never caught a pitcher that cut a ball or scuffed one. As a matter of fact, in a golf tournament a couple of years ago, I ran into Lou Burdett, and I was telling a friend of Lou's. Lou lives down in Sarasota, Florida. I was telling his friend, I said, Lou, you remember our sign for the spitter? He said, I never threw one. I said, Lou, wait a second. I caught it. I gave you a sign. The sign was the tug on the chest protector. He said, I never threw one. And I played 18 holes of golf with him that day, and he denied it for 18 holes.
Gary Carter bounces one back to Scott, and he throws him out, and he gets the first 2 here in the bottom of the 7th inning. I'd like to be on the jury debating that with Burdett. Darryl Strawberry, who has struck out swinging twice tonight. He has struck out 8 times, 2 in each game. So Darryl has had a total of 8 strikeouts in the series so far. But yesterday, 3-run home run to tie it. Ball 1 to him. Broke his bat on Doran. Boxes it around and throws him out. So Scott gets him in order in the bottom of the 7th inning, and the score remains Houston 3, the Mets nothing. And we'll have more after this word from your local station.
America's most sophisticated.
All right, we'll move now to the top of the 8th inning. Dickie Thon will lead off for Houston, followed by Mike Scott, the pitcher, and Bill Doran, top of the order. 2nd inning of work for Roger McDowell. He got him in order in the top of the 7th. It is 3-0 Astros. And right now, Mike Scott's on a 1-hitter. But on the other hand, Houston's had only 3 hits, but 2 of them have been home runs. And Thon has one of those home runs, and he fouls that away.
I think it's interesting to note that you can see almost the same action on Roger McDowell's fastball as on Mike Scott's split finger fastball. But of course, with McDowell, it's the sinker.
Like that.
Roger has a very sophisticated way of explaining how he throws that pitch. He said, I hold it with the seams and I throw it as hard as I can. has no idea why the ball sinks.
Bouncing ball, third baseman Ray Knight on the move and gets him.
Now battle, pitcher Mike Scott.
Boston beat California today, 7-6. They travel tomorrow, go back to Fenway for continuation of the American League Championship Series. Scott has struck out swinging and struck out looking against Fernandez. First time he has faced McDowell. Radar gun up into the window.
You know, it's not that a radar gun can do no good, because I think it's good for rehabilitation programs when a pitcher gets his strength back. But for a guy like Roger McDowell, it's really not an effective way of gauging how effective he is pitching, because Roger relies on movement, particularly late movement, and location. And that, more than speed, gets hitters out.
It would seemingly be utterly useless for Bob Ojeda.
Yeah, right. One change after the other. Bobby Ojeda slated to go in Game 6. And the Mets and Houston Astros will go back to Houston if Houston wins this ball game.
2-2 pitch to Scott. Swung on and missed, and he strikes out for the third time tonight.
The next batter.
2 down, and Bill Doran coming up. Originally, this championship series best of 7 was scheduled to be played 2 games here, 3 in Houston, and 2 games here. But for a number of reasons, some kind of complicated, it was switched the other way around. One of the factors in it, though, was a conflict of stadium use between baseball and football teams. And of course, the Astros play in the Dome, and so do the Houston Oilers. Doran, a switch hitter, turns around now and hits from the left side, and hitting left-handed yesterday, he had a home run. That is hit on the ground to the shortstop, Santana. And the side's retired. So Roger McDowell comes in and gets 6 in a row. And we're in the middle of the 8th inning. And it's 3-0 Houston.
Monday Night Football tomorrow.
Mookie Wilson leads off for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th inning. Against Mike Scott, Ray Knight, Rafael Santana follow. Scott coming into this inning. That is his 82nd pitch. In Houston in the opening game, he threw 125. So he is now in the 2 games thrown a total of 207 pitches. So he has been more efficient tonight than he was in Houston. He's only allowed 1 hit. Maybe 2 right here. Doran turns and throws on the bounce, and base hit Mookie Wilson. So the Mets have the leadoff man aboard.
Mookie Wilson pounding this ball in the ground, and a guy with Wilson's speed, there's no chance to get Wilson on a play like that, but Bill Doran, a valiant effort.
So now Ray Knight, who prior to Wilson had the only hit of the ball game. Herfeld and Calhoun now up in the bullpen for the Astros. Charlie came in and pitched an inning yesterday and was impressive. The 8th inning. Johnson. Howard Johnson is up in the on-deck circle, swinging a bat. That's foul. And again, Knight had sharp contact on it.
You mentioned Charlie Kerfeld, Keith, of course, the subject of a lot of second guessing, and that's part of baseball. It's not a good part of baseball, but can't stop that from the fans. But second guessing Hal Lanier for taking Charlie Kerfeld out of that game yesterday. And Hal Lanier simply stated, he said, if I had it to do again, I would do the same thing.
Pitch is high. 1 ball and 1 strike tonight. There's Big Charlie. And the lefty is Jeff Calhoun. One pitch tonight. Pops him up. It's going to come out of play back in the crowd. I see Scott a couple of times now in the last couple of innings. He's been fussing a little bit out on the mound.
Well, you remember the 8th inning of game 1. That was the inning he became, if you want to say it, unraveled. How can you become unraveled when they haven't scored a run off of it? But he was very wild, and Les Moss had to go out to talk to him. That was last Wednesday, 8th inning.
They appeal at first and no swing. Look for yourself.
Did not appear that he went around because there was too much body in the swing. Get that much body, and the umpire is more inclined to call it no swing.
2-2. Wilson goes. Knight swing. Hard shot. Third base. Good play. Garner throws across. Gets him. Wilson goes to third. And the ball gets loose. And backing up is Thon, the shortstop. And daring base running by Mookie Wilson.
Yeah, daring, especially when you're 3 runs down. But on the positive side, Wilson has done something unusual against an extraordinary pitcher. And that's Mike Scott. Now watch Wilson. He sees Garner dive to his right. And then when he gets up, ignoring him at second base, he takes third. The throw low by Glenn Davis. But Wilson trying to get something animated, and the best way to do that is to run the bases. What a play by Garner.
Now you've got Danny Heath, who has just come out of the dugout and picked up a bat. He was up there earlier in the ball game and then came away when the out was recorded in front of him. So now, with Danny Heath coming to the plate and Howard Johnson on deck, Mike Scott, with 1 out, has got to pitch to 2 left-handers. 1 out, remember, as Wilson stands at third. 3-0, Houston leading. Bottom of the 8th inning. And Scott is high to Heath. Hal Lanier, one of the busiest men I've ever seen in the dugout, what with his hand signals, but David Johnson scarcely moved.
Interesting point, huh?
Well, you very seldom see David moving around, but oftentimes you'll see Lanier talking, hand signals or some kind of signals to his catcher, Ashby. And certainly when the team is on offense, he's constantly giving signs. Johnson's very quiet. There's a strike. Dutch Rennett took a pretty good time to look at it and then called it a strike. Count is 2-1 on Heath, the pinch hitter, with Howard Johnson coming next. Mookie Wilson is at third with 1 out. Ball is hit in the gap. And Hatcher runs it down. Wilson tags. Here's the throw. He'll score. It's 3-1 Houston. Two down. on Heap's sacrifice fly to Hatcher.
Well, it's kind of a moral victory for the New York Mets to get a run off Scott. The first one yielded in the 16 2/3 innings that he's worked so far. But they would give Danny Heap that fly ball. They wanted, as far as the Mets were concerned, they wanted an extra base hit out of it. The run's fine, but time's running out.
With Heap and now Howard Johnson, it means that the potential exists here for 5 successive left-handed hitters because Dykstra, Backman, Hernandez all swing from the same side. And Howard Johnson, Hojo, is a dead fastball hitter. He sits on it. That one is outside. Ball 1.
Can one hit really turn a club around? Well, some people think that the hit that Howard Johnson got way back on April 24th against Todd Worrell of the Cardinals was the key hit of the season for the New York Mets. It tied the game, a 2-run homer in the 9th inning, and the Mets went on to sweep the Cardinals in that series and then just took over in the National League.
One count for Johnson. That's foul. It's 1-2. This telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball may not be reproduced nor retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
See, that's what he tried to do the other night in the 8th inning. He was high with everything, and the only time he really lost his cool was in the 8th inning. Got high with everything. It looks as though Lanier is asking less. What's going on? Howard Johnson's wife, Kim.
That's hit to Kevin Bass. Moving in right field. He makes the catch. And the side is retired. But the New York Mets get a run. And headed for the 9th inning. It's 3-1 Houston. Doug Siss. You see, he was fairly busy himself during the course of the season. Lives in Tacoma, Washington. Pitched for Bobo Brayton at my alma mater, Washington State. So Roger McDowell comes in and certainly does what was expected of him. He got 6 in a row. And the Mets have got a run, and now here is a foul ball that was bounced into the dugout, and you watch the New York Mets examine that thing. They're going to look at it and look at it and look at it.
Tim Tuffle, Rafael Santana examining that ball, hoping to find something. Look at Rafi. He said, wait a minute, I think I got something. Bobby, you check it out. Ronnie, what do you think? Nope, can't find anything.
All right, Doug Sisk in to face Billy Hatcher, Phil Garner, and Glenn Davis in the top of the 9th inning. Walling will be out on deck now, swinging a bat. He will go over to third base and replace Phil Garner at that spot at the bottom of the 9th inning. Elster is now playing shortstop. They hit for Santana. And the pitcher spot will be number 8 in the order. That's bouncer cut off by Knight. Nicely, and Ray guns him down. So 1 out. And here's Walling.
Attention, please, for the Astros, batting for third baseman.
Game 5 of the National League Championship Series tomorrow, and you'll get a chance to see the rookie left-hander for Houston, Jim Deshaies, 12-5 on the year against Dwight Gooden. But the key thing right here, as far as Houston's concerned, to win this ball game, because win here, and it takes them back to the Astrodome, regardless of what happens tomorrow. Walling hits the ball in the gap. Dykstra can't get to it. It's going through to the wall, and Walling coasts into second, standing with a double.
I'll tell you, pinch hitting has always amazed me. You think about it, hitters come out, they take batting practice, and then here it is, the 9th inning, they wait all the time. The body has a chance to get cold, and Denny Walling comes out and smacks the first pitch. I mean, he hit it like he knew what was coming.
Yeah, but he's a tough customer.
Yes, he is. He really is. But pinch hitting, a very refined art, or you've got to refine it to be good at it.
Glenn Davis is up. Single, walk, fouled out to the catcher. 3-1 Astros in the top of the 9th inning, and Doug Sis, the third pitcher for the New York Mets. And Dave Smith is up in the bullpen.
So Hal Lanier will do it again if necessary.
That's fouled back by Davis. And it's 1 ball and 1 strike. There's Hal Lanier. Doug Sis. The expectant attitude right now. This crowd's going to be up storming in the bottom of the 9th inning. Davis, big swing and a miss. Well, a good fastball from Sis. And the count is now 1 ball and 2 strikes. Denny Walling off second base. 1 out. Popped up, coming back out of play.
Usually at this stage of the ball game, managers like Hal Lanier and Davey Johnson make a lot of trips to the water cooler. Take a sip of water, get back up, take another sip of water.
Incidentally, it'll be the top of the order for the Mets as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Ball bounces. Carter blocked it.
What a play that was. Oh, boy. A catcher anticipates a breaking ball in the dirt, but there's no way of anticipating this type of sinker. That's one of those 54-footers. Oh, what a quick reaction play by Gary Carter to hold Walling at second.
Two balls and 2 strikes on Davis. That's low.
Doug Sisk actually fought his way back to the big leagues. He had 15 saves his rookie year in '83. Was sent out in spring training to Tidewater, the AAA affiliate. Fought his way back.
To the shortstop, Elster. And he throws him out. So Davis is gone, and now here is Kevin Bass, who will go from the left side against the right-hander Sis. They got Hatcher to bounce to third. Walling came in, double to left center to the wall. Now Davis bounces out to short. A 3-1 ball game, Houston. Inside. Remake the point. Dave Smith is now the man in the bullpen for Houston. He just as strong now as he was when the game started.
Dutch rendered it. That Dutch can bellow out strikes. Ball's no big deal. Ball 1. Very meek and humble.
Lawrence Henry Renard Jr. Inside. 3 balls and 1 strike to Bass. Jose Cruz, the man on deck for Houston. 2 down with Walling edging off second. Walks Bass. Now Cruz. I'll tell you, a run here for Houston will be so big, wouldn't it, Tim?
It really would. And Doug Sisk obviously trying to prevent that. The interesting matchup here is that Doug Sisk has problems with his control, and Jose Cruz a very good bad ball hitter. Instead of strength against strength, you almost have weakness against weakness here. But both are strong.
Randy Neiman is now headed for the New York bullpen. He's a left-hander. They used Orozco yesterday. Bouncer, third baseman Ray Knight steps on the bag, forcing Walling coming down, and the Astros are turned away in the top of the 9th inning. One more turn for the New York Mets. Houston leads 3-1. We'll be back to Shea Stadium after this commercial message and a word from your local station. For the New York Mets in the bottom of the 9th inning, trailing 3-1. Wally Backman will follow, then Keith Hernandez, then Gary Carter if somebody gets aboard. And the top 5 people in the New York batting order are hitless tonight. Walling is in on the grass at third, and Davis in on the grass at first in case Dykstra tries to lay one down. And the first pitch is ball 1 from Mike Scott.
With the Mets trailing by 2 runs, Dykstra will probably take a strike. I doubt that he will be hitting until he gets a strike on it.
He just got it. Houston trying to even the series at 2-2. Up the bat handle, and the pitch is high. Two and 1. Three and 1.
He'll be taking here, too. The reason you take in a situation like this, basically your run is no good. You cannot hit a 2-run homer with nobody on base.
Crowd's in it now. Three and 2.
Those strikes will take crowds out of it, won't they?
Three successive left-handed hitters to face Scott. It's hit to left field. Base hit for Dykstra. Cruz brings it back in, and Lenny's aboard. That is the 3rd hit of the ball game for the Mets. And now it's Wally Backman.
Well, a good piece of hitting by Dykstra. The fastball a strike away, and the little one-handed slap shot. Good piece of hitting by Dykstra. I'll tell you, if you're thinking about yesterday's ball game and Dave Smith coming into the game, Mike Scott's still throwing well. And if Hal Lanier, if his theory yesterday was to go with your best when he went with Smith, tonight I think he's going to think he ought to go with his best, and his best is Scott. And if he gets beat with Scott, there's no looking back.
Dykstra off first, Backman up. Pitch is low.
I'm really surprised to see Glenn Davis holding Dykstra on at first. That run is no good. it's more important for the Astros to get the out than it is for the Astros to hold Dykstra at first.
But Scott knocks it down, throws him out at first base. That's one out as Dykstra goes to second.
Well, what a nice play by Mike Scott. Had that ball gotten by him, it's easily a base hit. As you see the bunt play, watch Scott dive for it. He cradles the ball and just gets backman. You saw Hal Lanier on the top step. What he was doing was telling his outfielders to throw the ball to second base. Don't worry about trying to get Len Dykstra. His run means absolutely nothing. Pitch and play as though no one were on base.
Keith Hernandez. Keith is about ready to start answering back. That's foul. Ed Scott, 0-2. Three to 1, the Astros lead it. One out for the Mets, and Dykstra on second base. Hernandez representing the tying run at the plate. That's fouled off.
Both managers handling themselves very calmly and uncharacteristically, especially for Hal Lanier. I'll tell you, that's what you try to do. You try to calm yourself down as much as you can.
Two-strike pitch. Bounce to the second baseman, Bill Doran. Throws out Hernandez. Dykstra goes to third. Two down. And now, Gary Carter, who has popped up to the shortstop, struck out swinging, and bounced back to the pitcher. In the two games, Carter has struck out 4 times against Scott.
Gary has not even hit a ball out of the infield, as a matter of fact. In game 1, he grounded out to third, striking out 3 times. Tonight, he has struck out once and grounded out once and popped to second.
And he has the one hit, just one hit in the entire series. So his bat has been quiet. That ball is hit high in the air to center field for Billy Hatcher. This should do it. Game is over. Mike Scott has beaten the New York Mets for the second time in the National League Championship Series. A 3-hitter tonight, and the Houston Astros win it 3-1. The series is now even at 2 games apiece, and for sure will go back to Houston. So, Hal Lanier sent his stopper out, and he did the job. 3-1, your final score.
We're not a company.
Today, but will continue tomorrow at its regular time. Now, stay tuned for ABC's exclusive coverage of the baseball playoffs.
This is a simple but apt demonstration of circumstances at Shea Stadium in New York. It is raining. The game has been delayed because of the rain. started at mid-morning. For some 2 hours, however, the Mets faithful have been coming to the ballpark. The rain continues to come down, not hard, but a slow, steady drizzle, and it's getting wetter and wetter, and the weather forecast for the future is not particularly good as we wait for game number 5 of the National League Championship Series, all even at 2-2 between the Houston Astros and the New York Mets. Without engaging in the vernacular of the weatherman, just generally telling you that storm that you see there, the lighter colored area, moderate rain, meaning heavier than we have at the present time, moving in a northeasterly direction, and it may become more inclement as time goes on. The president of the National League, Chub Feeney, has met with both managers of the teams and with the umpires, and they are on record that we will make every effort possible to play this game. No curfew in National League, if you know that. Game 5 between the Houston Astros and the New York Mets, with the series all even at 2-2. Well, the circumstance at Shea Stadium is only slightly brighter than it was yesterday, in that Pete Flynn and his ground crew have gone onto the field now and started the exercise of sweeping the water off the infield tarp and the process of beginning to roll it off. This on direction from the National League president, Chub Feeney. But I think you can put "we hope" in quotes, because the weather system that is causing this disruption is still in the neighborhood. And that red or dark area in the yellow there, that spells thunderstorm. And the general feeling seemed to be amongst the weathermen of this area that we would have a thunderstorm before the weather front cleared out of here. And it's a weather front that is headed for Boston. So we don't know what's going to happen with the American League Championship Series, which is standing by for Game 6. But Tim McCarver, one more day and we might all take root here at Shea Stadium, because I really don't see any bright prospect of being able to play this game, because the threat of rain is just as obvious as ever.
Yeah, it really is. And Chub Feeney came out at 12:50 and told Pete Flynn and his ground